My name's Olivia Angus. I'm a medical device engineer and a clean water activist. I work down the street at a company called Abbott, where we make left ventricular assist device, or LVADs for short. They're basically implantable heart pumps for people with heart failure. If we have any old school Grey's Anatomy fans in the house, we made Denny's LVAD. I'm also a clean water activist with the Surfrider Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to the protection of our oceans, waves, and beaches. Now, if you're like me and you watch a film like this, there are probably lots of emotions and thoughts going through your head right now. You're probably a little overwhelmed by the enormity of the plastics pollution problem. You're probably feeling a little bad for the animals like that turtle that get affected by this pollution. You might even feel a little guilty for that Cliff Bar you ate earlier this morning. But eventually you get through all these thoughts and you start thinking, what can I do? Well, you can refuse single-use plastics, replace them with reusables, make your voice heard, know your plastic footprint, and start by making small changes. Refuse single-use plastics. So I'm an engineer, so I'm all about the 80-20 rule, which states that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So every year, there's an international coastal cleanup held by the Ocean Conservancy. And last year, there were over 800,000 volunteers that cleaned up beaches and across over 30 or so countries. And this is the list of the top 10 items that they collected on the beaches. You see that cigarette butts are number one. If you don't know, there's a little plastic filter in cigarette butts. So this is why we consider it a single-use plastic item. If you're a smoker, I'm not going to give you a guilt trip and ask you to stop quitting today. I'm sure you get enough of that from your mother. But I will ask that you dispose of the butts correctly, because if you throw a butt in the street, it washes into our drains and into our oceans. Number two is food wrappers. Where you can refuse those individually wrapped pieces of candy or snacks or trail mix bags. Or the worst thing I've seen is an individually plastic wrapped banana. It already has a peel. It's a little ridiculous. So just say no to those. Plastic beverage bottles. How many times do you go to a meeting and there's a water bottle at every single seat? And almost instinctively you go and you sit down and you open it and you start drinking it. You weren't even thirsty and you're like, I almost feel obligated to take it. So where you can, just refuse those. When you're going grocery shopping, if you're just grabbing one or two items, refuse the bag and just carry it to your car. Straws. If you don't need it, don't use it. And same with the rest of this list. If you don't need it, don't use it. Replace with reusables. So instead of a plastic water bottle, reusable water bottle, easy enough. Instead of a plastic shopping bag, reusable grocery bag. If you don't remember your grocery bags, that's okay. I like to tell people, you've been shopping in a disposable system for 10, 20, maybe 30 years, and you've kind of learned these habits in a disposable system. So it's going to take you a little bit of time to develop the habits to shop in a reusable system. Bring your coffee cup when you get coffee at Starbucks or Pete's or wherever you like to get coffee. If you can't remember, I like to keep an extra one of these in my car so that it's there when I need it. If you are staying at the coffee shop, ask for it in a mug. A lot of coffee shops have mugs where you can sit down and enjoy your coffee. If you are still going to take it to go, but you have a little bit of extra time, consider asking for it without the lid. Drink to a safe distance and then go about your way. Well, what a lot of people don't, so a lot of people know that the top is made out of plastic, but a lot of people don't know that you can't recycle the paper cups because it's lined with plastic. And a lot of the recyclers don't have the technology available to separate that plastic from the paper. So those don't get recycled. I gave up boba for 2 years, and I love boba because I was trying to avoid single-use plastics until it dawned on me recently that I could bring my own cup, and they sell these extra wide silicone straws. So I get boba again. So if I'm going to a place that has plastic forks and utensils, I'll bring my own cloth napkin and my own fork and spoon. I keep a roll of this in my car and one in my purse. I think this plastic packet is the worst. A lot of times you only use the fork. I've never seen anybody use the salt or pepper, and at the end you take the napkin, you wipe it on your mouth, and it smells like pepper, and it's gross. So you can take it one step further by using package-free options. So instead of buying a bag of almonds like you would, you can buy almonds in bulk in the bulk section of your grocery store, and you can bring a cloth bag to get those almonds and bring them home. Same thing. Instead of these individual cups of oatmeal, I buy oatmeal in bulk, and I used a cleaned out salsa jar to bring my oatmeal to work every day in the morning. Shampoo. Think about how many shampoo bottles you'll use in your entire life. And then consider switching to a dry, unpackaged shampoo bar, which you can get at Lush across the street. So, same concept. Instead of liquid soap, unpackaged soap bar that you can buy at Whole Foods. If you need other inspiration or ideas, I created this handy dandy 50 ways to go plastic free sheet that your awesome green team has, and they'll be happy to email it out to you, or you can see me later. I think there's a few floating around as well. Instagram is a great resource. Hashtag plastic free or hashtag zero waste will come up with a lot of ideas. I like Trashes for Tossers and Going Zero Waste. Going Zero Waste is run by Catherine Kellogg, and she's a local, so I like supporting locals. And she recently released a book called 101 Ways to Go Zero Waste. Has lots of great ideas. Life Without Plastic is a book that kind of digs into the nitty-gritty details of not only why plastic is bad for the environment, but also bad for your health. Zero Waste Home is a book by another great local, Bea Johnson. Has lots of ideas on how to go to zero waste, but also gives you recipes and tips and tricks like how to make your own toothpaste. Make your voice heard. So December of last year, I went to a local elementary school and we screened this film. And I asked Jackie Nunez to come talk to the kids, and they loved her. But I asked her to talk about why plastics affect the environment. And afterwards, I asked them to work with their teachers to write letters to city council. And these letters were great. You know, kids really get it. The letters were basically like, plastic is bad for the environment. It hurts the animals. We need to get rid of all plastics today. So I took these letters and gave them to city council. And Jackie and I, we spoke at city council along with 25 of these students. And we were asking the city to pass a single-use plastics reduction ordinance. Now, if you don't know, the state of California passed a law last year that said that you can't be served a straw at a sit-down restaurant unless you ask for it. So a straws upon request law. And I wanted the city to extend that to include all food service establishments. So not just sit-down restaurants, but bars, coffee shops, fast food. And I wanted them to include all food serviceware items, including stir sticks, lids, sleeves, and utensils. Basically, if I didn't ask for it, I don't want it. It's because of these actions that the City Council voted unanimously to add this ordinance to their 2019-2020 City Council work plan, which gets started in July. Our wonderful Vice Mayor, Carla Brown, is here today. So I wanted to personally thank her for her support in this. And to take it one step further, Councilman Jerry Penton, he talked to a group called StopWaste.org, which is a local group dedicated to stopping waste in Alameda County. And they actually suggested that it should be called a single-use disposables reduction ordinance. So I was just asking for single-use plastics. Plastics that get used once and get thrown away. They're saying basically anything that gets used once and gets thrown away, and doesn't matter what material that they're made of, should be considered, you know, even better than I was asking for. So that's what it's called on the work plan. So make your voice heard. Email City Council and let them know that you support a single-use disposables reduction ordinance. Or you can let our wonderful Vice Mayor know later today. And if you don't live in Pleasanton and you would like to do something like this in your city, you know, come talk to me afterwards and I can help you. Know your plastic footprint. So I got started on my plastic-free journey about 2 years ago with a challenge called #PlasticFreeJuly. And so for the whole month of July, you basically refuse all single-use plastics. Now at that time, I'd been with the Surfrider Foundation for about 8 years. And my very first campaign was a plastics campaign. So for 8 years, I'd been carrying around my reusable water bottle. I'd been carrying around my reusable grocery bags, and I thought this would be cake. And you know, for the first couple of days, it was pretty easy, probably because we started it on a weekday. And during the week, I cook meals at home. We don't go out to eat that much. And Yeah, so it's pretty easy. And it wasn't until about the weekend, and I'm generally a healthy eater, but I love Taco Bell. And so sit down at Taco Bell, unwrap the first taco, because you can't have more, or you need more than one, and reach for the sauce packet when I thought, crap, it's made out of plastic. And it really hit me then. How many pieces of single-use plastic, or even just disposable plastic items, had I been blindly using for the last 8 years that I hadn't thought of? So I put that packet back. Let me tell you, it was the saddest taco I've ever eaten in my life. And I went about the month. And during that month, I learned a lot of different things. I learned that tea bags, nearly all of them contain plastic. Not just the pretty triangular ones that look like plastic, but even the papery ones. They have plastic fibers in them so that they can withstand the heat of your tea. And so I switched from tea bags to loose leaf tea. I made that switch from liquid shampoo to a shampoo bar. If my hair looks nice enough, hopefully a few of you will make that switch. I even developed a routine when I went to a restaurant. As soon as I sat down, I saw the waiter or waitress, let him know that I'd like a glass of water with no straw. And we usually have our kids with us, so I said, no kids cups, please, because kids cups are also the worst. It's plastic cup, plastic lid, plastic straw. And I made it through almost the entire month without using a single piece of single-use plastic. That was until we sat down at Zephyr's in Livermore, and before I had even made eye contact with the waiter or waitress, this shows up. I was like, oh, almost made it to the finish line, and this kind of irritated me. But I used the straw, and I put it in my purse. I reused it again, so I kind of got around that loophole. But it really goes to show you how hard it is to live in a single-use disposable society. So, what's your plastic footprint? For the next 24 hours, I'd like you to play a little game with me. Make note of every piece of disposable plastic you come in contact with. Now, generally, your phone is always in your hand, so I would suggest that you take a picture of it. By the end of the 24 hours, you'll have a nice catalog of the plastics that you use. And then refuse all single-use plastics. If you can't refuse them, that's okay. Take a picture. Again, you'll get a good catalog and understand how much plastic you actually come in contact with. Start making small changes. So we talked about a lot of things so far. We talked about refusing single-use plastics, replacing them with reusables, making your voice heard, and knowing your plastic footprint. I know this sounds like a lot, but start with the game. Start with knowing what your plastic footprint is. You can't really solve a problem until you really understand what it is. So take the next 24 hours to see what the problem is. And from there, make a small change that makes sense to you. And I'm going to leave you with 2 quotes. The first one's going to show you how much of a millennial I am. It's an Instagram of a tweet. And it says, when people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks they can radically change the future by doing something small. Mind blown. And the second one is by Mother Teresa, and she writes, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And so I invite you to make that first small change that will hopefully create many ripples.